This is Jeff and Nick here. We're the creators of Raid, Pirates, Plunder, and we're going to explain the instructions to you so you don't necessarily have to read through them all.
Yeah, I hope you guys love it. I think it's an exciting game. See if you like it.
So start with how we build a board. It's already set up here to some degree, but what you can do is you essentially just put these tiles together in any order. Keep in mind that there are impassable regions on every tile: sandbar, rocks, serpent, volcano, and these will limit movement throughout the game. So the more open you make your board, there will be a lot more stealing involved, and the less open the board is going to make it more strategic and chess-like. So everyone just kind of collectively decides where to put these hex tiles and make a board. And then at the end of that, you put your port tile down. Every player has a port tile. So we're just going to go around. The player who has the longest criminal record or the most questionably moral past goes first. And we're just going to assume that is me. And we're going to kind of go around and you get to place your port tile against any perimeter edge you want. Now keep in mind that you want to be able to move onto the board, so don't block yourself out with impassable regions. So I'm going to put my port tile right here, which allows me to come onto the board in this direction, and this direction, because I have no impassable regions blocking that. And I'm going to go ahead and put my pirate on that port. And now we continue clockwise around the board. So the next player, which I'm going to be simulating as well, put their port tile there, and that'll be their port for the rest of the game.
Next player comes in, chooses theirs over here, and in kind of next.
Awesome. So this is essentially how you build a board. Some other elements to keep in mind: you put the navy on the fortress to start out with the game, and then you also put the number of players -1. That's how many merchant ships you're going to put down to start. And you start with the one direction and you follow to the adjacent hex tile, and you kind of go in a clockwise order around until you've reached the number of merchant ships that you're playing. So in a 4-player game, we're going to use 3 merchant ships. So we'll place it adjacent to the 1, the 2, and the 3. And this concludes how you set up the board. To go over the different pieces of the board now, there are open water hex tiles, which are all these blue open water hex tiles. Then you also have 4 specialty hex tiles throughout the board, and they all kind of have different factors that come into influence during the game. And you have the port tile, which we've already explained. This is where the pirates start from. It's where you go back to if you're caught by the navy. It's also where you go back to once you've delivered a ship. And so these are the port tiles. The next is Black Bart's Lagoon. This is where you're delivering the merchant ships to. And we'll go over all this in more detail. I just want to point these out to you. So this is where you're trying to bring all these ships to. You have the fortress, which is essentially the port, but for the navy. It's the navy's home base. And he will get reset there if he gets stuck. That's pretty much all that there. Then the tavern has a special rule with it. We'll get into it, but it's essentially when you come through the tavern, gossip spreads, and the navy is alerted, and he'll immediately move to the tavern. So just to give you an overview of a turn, there's 3 basic components to a turn. The pirate will move, which is you as a player. Then you will roll the dice, and the navy and the merchant ships will move according to the dice roll. So a pirate can move 1 or 2 spaces in a single direction, and they cannot pass through impassable regions, which I explained earlier are the rocks and the ships and the volcanoes. And they all have the same effect. You just can't go through them. So with my turn here, if I'm going to start the game, I can move 1 or 2 in a single direction. So I could move here. I could move all the way to there because there's no impassable region in between, and it's a single direction. I could also move 1 or 2 in this direction. I cannot leave the board, and I cannot change directions. I can't go here and here. I have to stay in a single linear path. So that will be my turn. So I'll move all the way out to the lagoon, and then I roll the dice. So this dice is a 6. So this determines the direction that the entire game now moves. So we'll start with the navy. The navy will move in the 6th direction. And every hex tile has numbers 1 through 6 corresponding to the edge, and that implies the direction that the navy will move. Keep in mind that the dice implies a direction, not a quantity. The navy will move like a pirate up to 2 spaces in a single direction unless he catches a pirate, is blocked by an impassable region, So after you've moved the Navy, he'll follow in the 6 direction, and he's blocked by the ship, so he's going to stop here. He could move up to 2 if there wasn't something blocking him, or he caught a pirate. Then you move the merchant ships. Now they move only 1 hex tile, no matter what, unless they're also blocked by a impassable region. And they'll follow the same direction. So we follow the 6. This ship will move here. This ship is blocked by these rocks, so it'll stay put. And this ship will move on to this one. So there is the possibility of having multiple ships on the same tile, and we'll get into some resources that allow you to carry off multiple ships at the same time. Now if a ship stays in the same spot for more than 3 turns, it has no effect because people will come and capture these ships. But if the Navy gets stuck in a spot for more than 3 times, they are reset to the fortress and play begins again. So keep that in mind of possible movements for the Navy.
And if a player is sitting on the guard fortress when the guard resets, that is a condition under which a player is caught.
Indeed. So that completes my turn. I moved my pirate, I rolled the dice, and the game moved accordingly. So now each player going clockwise will take their turn in the same fashion, and that will complete 1 round.
So the overall goal of this game is to capture these merchant ships that are sailing the seas and bring them back to Black Bart's cave here in the center of the board. Once you've successfully done that, you can turn it in for the gold that's on the back. This is your reward, and you turn it in for the money. At the end of the game, the player with the most money wins. A great way to spend this money and invest it to improve your chances of raiding different ships along the game are resource cards. The way resource cards work is you can purchase them in any port. Usually a good way to do this is at the start of your turn from your own port, but you can also show up in any one of your friends' ports and purchase resource cards out of that. I'm going to go over a quick example of each different type of resource card just to show you guys how it works. So the first one is the map of passageways, and this allows you to jump over 1 hazard or impassable area in a turn. So the price for each one is listed at the bottom. So you'd spend your $500, you pick up a map of passageways resource cards, and this would allow a player to move over a rock like that, or any one for that matter. However, this does not allow you to move over an edge where there are 2 impassable areas, such as right here where there are 2 rocks right next to each other. You would not be able to do that with just 1 resource card. At the end of your turn, after you've jumped over that 1 impassable area, you turn the card back into its pile. The next one is the allied ship. This allows you to raid 2 different ships at the same time. So like over here where we've had 2 merchant ship cards show up on 1 tile, a player can purchase an allied ship for $1,000, move, and now can carry those with him as he pleases. So the next one is the false flag, which allows you for $1,500 to avoid being caught by the Navy. As he moves around the board randomly, he'll land on player spaces, and it's generally good not to have this happen to you, especially if you're carrying a ship. So the next one is the mermaid card, and this one for $1,500 assigns the Navy to move in a straight line direction towards the mermaid once placed on the board for 2 consecutive turns. The way this works is I'm going to want to move towards Black Bart's cave. However, the Navy is standing right there. So I'm going to take him out of the game by placing the mermaid card over here. And I'm also going to pull a little bit of a move too, where I'm putting it under another player who's out of the turn order and isn't going to be able to move for another 2 turns. So now the Navy, because the mermaid card, is stuck and can no longer move by the dice roll. He must move in 1 tile sequences for 2 turns towards the mermaid, which is going to both simultaneously move him 1 that way, clearing up my lane, and the next turn later, capture my enemy. Next resource card is the Phantom Ship, which for $2,000 allows you to move to any perimeter hex tile instantly, which is a great opportunity for a few different scenarios across the board, such as the red player over there, who's all the way on the other half of the board from any of the merchant ships. This is a great alternative to him trying to bounce tile by tile for 5 or 10 turns through all that nonsense. With this resource card, he can just come straight across right away and be right back in the game. Second great opportunity is if you're worried about getting caught by the Navy. This offers a great quick escape. Like this guy right here, if he's got some reason that he doesn't want to get caught this particular turn, he can just get out of the way, no questions asked, no longer in risk. And finally, should the opportunity present itself, if Black Bart's Cove happens to be a perimeter hex tile and you have a ship and you're looking for a really quick, easy way, not having to worry about getting caught or someone else raiding your plunder, then Phantom Ship, real easy way to just get to straight to Black Bart's Cave if it happens to be on a perimeter tile.
So just to explain in more detail how the Navy moves and what it looks like to get captured by the Navy. So let's say the Navy rolled a 5 in this case. You can move up to 2 spaces in a single direction, as mentioned before. So if we move 1, but we're at the edge of the board, well, what does this mean? That means that if there's no impassable region on the side that he's leaving and the side that he's entering, the Navy will scroll to complete his movement. So this will be 1, 2. And in this case, the yellow player has been captured by the Navy and will be sent back to his or her port, abandoning the ship that they had raided, and they will also lose any resource cards that they are holding on hand. Another element of Raid Pirates Plunder is the combat rules, and this is where pirates can steal from other pirates. So we're taking an example here with the white player and the yellow player. If it is the white player's turn, he can move on to the yellow player's space when they're holding a merchant ship. And now, whose merchant ship is this? This is a player-to-player raid. So it goes down to a dice roll. The player that moves on to the ship rolls first. So the white player will roll first. I roll a 5. Nick over here will roll for the yellow player. Rolls a 6. So now the yellow player maintains possession of that ship, and the white player will be sent back to his respective port, which is over here. And that will end his turn, and then from there, I guess we would roll for the Navy and move the merchant ships accordingly.